Good morning, guys. We're just letting traffic build here for a second. It's Gerry coming to you from Rhythmia Life Advancement Center in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. It was just a really rainy day, but it turned into a beauty just minutes ago, right on time for the broadcast. And today we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. So if you can, kindly share this, because the way that the Facebook is doing its stuff anymore, you have to share it. You have to get to the point where you can share it. So you're helping Rhythmia. Good morning, Jen. Good morning, Sylvia. Everybody's here starting out. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to talk about a number of different things. First thing, what is Rhythmia and why is it different? Well, Rhythmia is a life advancement center that uses a very unique approach to life advancement, to personal development. And what is that approach? Well, we use plant medicine, in particular ayahuasca, and metaphysical teachings and yoga and meditation. We get all of this wrapped into 1 week, and it changes people's lives. And when I say it changes people's lives, I'm not saying that or taking that lightly. We poll people when they're here, when they leave 6 months later, and we find out all of this data. We're one of the only plant medicine centers in the world that keeps data, which sounds crazy, but it's absolutely true. Hi Chad, hi Adam, hi Jen, hi Leslie, hi everybody, good morning. We keep data. What has that data told us? Well, it tells us a really interesting thing. 951 out of every 1,000 people who come here say that they had a life-changing miracle during their stay. A life-changing miracle during their stay. And more importantly than that, 6 months later, they say that that miracle is still working in their lives. How many of them? 975 out of 1,000 say that that miracle is still working in their life, and it has changed them. It really has changed them. So what is this thing? Well, it looks like this. Our belief is that something happens between when you're born or when you're conceived and about 5, 6 years old, where you split from your soul and you become someone else. And your whole life, you're yearning to mend this soul again, to reintegrate with your soul. And we believe that all disease, all disorders, and all addictions stem from this break. And we have proof that this actually occurs. Yeah? So we believe that, and we believe once you put it back together, your life changes for the better. And I mean really changes for the better. Is it a silver bullet? No way. It requires work. It requires you to work. But man, it's night and day difference from where you came from. It really is. And we know this. Okay, before we get talking more about this and medicines from our lessons from plant journeys, I want to talk about some predictions that Rhythmia has made. So in the beginning, we talked about a 17% infection rate and about a 0.26 to 0.56 death rate. That looks like it's true. The end of this virus has already been over. Nobody has called it. Sometime between now and the end of the year, somebody is going to call this virus is over. We believe that point will happen in November at some point. We also believe this, that come the new year, there will be a period of economic expansion that will mimic that of the 1920s, the roaring 20s, again and again and again, repeating itself. Okay, now we want to talk about lessons from the medicine. So what I've been doing in my work, this virus, which has been my medicine, has taught me so many different things. One of the things it's done is I've gone back to my plant medicine journeys and I've read them all. And there's a lot of them, right? There's 80,000 words of plant medicine journeys of mine. I think I have 277-ish journeys. And each one is written down. And I've gotten so much out of going back to them and revisiting them and seeing what's going on with them. That's why when you come to Rhythmia, I want you to record every journey. Meaning, when you're done, the next day you take an hour, you go into your notes and you write down everything that you remember. And then later that day, if you remember more, you write down some more. Because these things are gold. So one of the things, the overriding thing that's come out of the plant medicine journeys for me is truth. And what does it mean to stay in truth? Now you got to catch this, all right? So a lot of us spend our day looking for confirmation to confirm that we're right. So what we do is we look at 1,000 pieces of data and we pick those pieces of data that support our position. And then, because we want acceptance, we want to be a part of a crowd, we want to be a part of people, we look and then commune with those people that find the same pieces of data to support their position like our position. That is not a search for the truth. A search for the truth looks quite different than that. A search for the truth is more about wanting to learn the truth of a situation, even if it's completely against what you know to be true or correct. It's hard stuff. It's constant reflection, constant honesty. Now, how does this show up in our life? Well, I can tell you what. The people whose opinion and whose perception most closely line up with truth are the most successful in their endeavors. Fact. So, the people whose perception of what's going on is closest to that which is fact in the universe do better than anybody else. They're more successful at whatever they're doing. If they're a basketball player, they're a better basketball player. If they're a poet, they're a better poet. If they're a stock investor, they're a much better investor. If they're a businessman, they're a better businessman. If they're a business person, they're a better business person. The closer your perception is to reality, the greater the trajectory of your life. It's just the truth. Now, again though, that's only one piece of the puzzle. So if you're just sitting there and saying, okay, it's true that the stock market's going to go down in February, and you know it, and you're close to fact, but you don't do anything about it, you're at zero. So the next thing is action. Where people get into a whole lot of trouble is they take action on data that doesn't line up with reality, and then they're forever chasing that confirmation like a gambler who makes bad choices. They're constantly doubling down, hoping for things to turn right that aren't right. They're the guy that's on his 751st relationship and wanting something to change. It's because the perception of self is not clear. And the first step in all of these processes at Rhythmia are this: show me who I have become. Now look, if you're not yet evolved enough to be truthful about something outside of yourself, and what do I mean by that? The state of affairs in the United States, or the state of affairs throughout the world. If you're not even truthful enough yet to be evolved enough yet, and that's a word I'm going to get into in a second, to be truthful about something outside of yourself, man, you're going to have a really, 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 really hard time with coming to grips and telling the truth about something within yourself. You got to catch this, man. This is hard work. This is the hard work, right? So the first thing we got to do, number one, step one, is to be truthful about who we have become. How can we know that? Some of us are so far from any vision of truth, and you know what's so crazy? When we're listening to people talk about themselves, the people around that person know that they have no idea who they become, but the person himself seems so incredibly sure of who he or she is, and the other people around them just cringe. Well, there's a little bit of that in you. There's a little bit of that in me. So our crystal clear vision of ourselves might not be as crystal clear as we think. So how do we get to it? Well, we get to it by loving ourselves. That the first step in this is looking at yourself as a child and with that kind of love, and it's easier for people that have had children or have had a pet or have had an experience of utter and total love to look at ourselves in that way and to be realistic about some things. Oh, well, you know what? Now the universe is constantly trying to help you. What do I mean by that? Well, if I'm jumping off a chair and I believe with everything in me that gravity has reversed itself and I'm going to fall up, and I jump and I smack my face on the ground, that's just the universe teaching me what's what. Now, the universe is constantly teaching us that, but our events are not that clear. We're not jumping off a chair. We're not jumping in front of a car. We're doing this kind of work of art that has a result, and sometimes we don't like the result, and there was so much that went into the work of art. We start to blame the painter, the canvas, the brush, the guy that mixed the colors. Like, it gets all over the place, but the more perceptive we are, the more clearly we can accept clues and then love ourselves, the clearer we're going to be. And I want to tell you something. If anybody is there and you talk about success and say, well, life isn't about success. Well, life is about success. Might not be about commercial success, but if you're here as a healer, then the more people you heal, the more successful you were in life. The Christ was an incredibly successful person. He healed so many people, right? That's so, yes, if you're here to be a healer, I want you to be great at it, to heal so many people, to feel fulfilled about it. Now we're going to talk more about what the medicine says and truth. If we're using spirituality as a bypass for being present in life, we're cheating. And it will never, ever, 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 ever bring you joy. It won't. It will not. It will not. What it might do is it might give your ego a little superiority complex so that you can think you're better than someone else, but it will never, ever, ever, ever work. Spirituality can be the greatest and biggest bypass of all things. You know why? Because it's so slick. It's the ego's slickest suit. Oh, I'm super spiritual. That's why I'm having all these troubles in life. Oh, I'm super spiritual. I'll just sit down and meditate again rather than deal with who I am. Woo. Wow. So, what is the art? What is the beauty? What is the joy? Not the pleasure. What is the joy of Rhythmia? It's giving someone the ability to take the eternal, and bring it into the moment. Pooh, wow. To take the eternal and bring it into the moment. And in that, that's where joy is. That's where mastery is. And the feeling of mastery. When I tell you there's a feeling nobody should leave this planet without feeling that feeling of mastery. The smile on Eddie Van Halen's face when he's tapping. Man, that is the feeling of mastery, and you can't get there from a lie. And you can't get there. And why can't you get there from a lie? Because in order to gain mastery, we first have to see our faults in ourselves. In other words, Fred Astaire, at some point he was not a good dancer. And he had to say to Fred, Fred, in order for you to be a good dancer, you got to do this, this, and this. And he practiced on those things, and practiced on those things, and practiced on those things, and became the best of the best. Michael Jordan got kicked off his high school basketball, didn't make his team. That requires the most amazing amount of truth. And without truth, you cannot get to mastery. It's 100% impossible. Impossible. Can't do it. So what I'm inviting you to do is to ask these questions of yourself, right? So let's take a look at the two things that are trouble with spiritual. If you're using spirituality as a fashion statement, you are fucked. And fucked means you have no chance. If you're sitting there walking through Venice with your beads and you're this and you're that, and you've never, ever, ever made the trip to yourself, I don't care how shiny your stuff is, I don't care how cool you want to look, it simply is not going to work. Now, the other side of that, if you're using your spirituality as a bypass from your own life, it will not work. What it will do is soothe. I want to explain this. It will soothe temporarily, kind of like drinking alcohol or random sex or cocaine or hiding in your children's lives. It's a temporary soothing, but it's never, ever, ever a solution. Because the solution, here's the parts of this that are hard. The solution is here and now. Now, when you're resolved, in other words, when you're merged and now you have spirituality, that feels like mastery. And to get that feeling of mastery, I don't mean that to put yourself above someone. As a matter of fact, it's the exact opposite of putting yourself above someone. The feeling of mastery is the in awe. I'm in awe of myself as a part of this universe that's insignificant and significant at the same time. Ooh. That's good stuff. That is it. I'm in awe of myself as part of this universe, being insignificant and significant at the same time. Man, I'm attached. And so all of this stuff that you learn at Rhythmia is being to hang on to these opposites at the same time. I am of the stars, but working on this earth. I am good and bad at the same time. I am joy and terror at the same time. I'm all of this. And from those things we get to choose. So watch. I'm all for spirituality. I'm not all for how it's used. I'm not all for how it's used, right? So really, really, really be cognizant of that. Now, doing the work on the planet. So here's the thing. This is another evolution of that. So once I merge, now I become spiritual. Because when you merge, you get to see your soul. The whole mystery of your own universe is exposed to you. And it's too much for words, but now you have to walk through life with that. Now I'm walking through life with this knowledge. Does life get easier? No. Nope. Does it get more joyful? Yes. They're two different things. So, the car that doesn't start on Monday morning in 4 foot of snow still doesn't start on Monday morning in 4 foot of snow. That doesn't change. My experience of that changes completely. And this is what is beautiful about coming here, about the experience of being merged, is that it's how we deal with the rest of this life that makes joy, contentment, fulfillment, not pleasure. Pleasure is a whole different thing, and we'll get into that at another time. And there's a place for pleasure. Pleasure is never so pleasurable as it is when you're merged. I'll tell you that too. So, what's my next question here? So my next thing is this, is that it's to beware of shortcuts. What did he just say? Beware of shortcuts. Beware of shortcuts. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, shortcuts in dieting are fad diets, right? Shortcuts in business are shortcuts, right? Shortcuts in marriage are I'm going to read a book and learn to trick someone. Beware of shortcuts because they never, ever, ever work out. Now, here's an interesting thing. Usually the people selling the shortcuts that they're selling have not worked for them. So what's different is this. In spirituality, it's hidden. In money, it's hidden. In diets, it's right there for you. What do I mean by that? So a guy pops up on the internet and he's selling a diet. My first thing is, let's get a look at him. If he's 400 pounds overweight, I ain't buying that diet. But in spirituality, it gets harder because the words people use a lot of times don't reflect what's going on in their own life. As a matter of fact, sometimes it's far, far, far apart, and they want to sell easy. Who doesn't want to buy easy? Listen, make $10 million in your sleep. Hey, okay. Have the lover of your dreams by wearing this hat. Okay. It's all easy. So you have to be very, very, very careful who you're buying your advice from. Now, what I wish is this. I wish the people that were selling manifestation had to disclose their own net worth. Now, 80% of them would go by the wayside, right? 80% of them, and that's just the fact. So you have to discern. So this keeps going around truth. I started out today with talking about truth. The first step in the merger, who have I become? Another thing, how close is my perception to universal reality? How close is it? I constantly have to monitor that. And now here's what's even trickier with that too. Because other people I want to belong, because I'm unsure of myself, I want to belong, I'm willing to forego facts in order for acceptance. That is a really, really, really painful side road trip. It's a trip into the underbrush that can last forever. So, and by the way, your beauty is from your uniqueness. Your uniqueness is what breeds confidence, because in your uniqueness there's truth. That breeds confidence, and confidence attracts all things. It's a cycle that you have to get used to of being you. What does the universe want from you? People say, Gerry, after all these journeys, have you figured out what she wants from you? Or what a lot of people will say, what he wants for you, because they don't know yet, you know? And I always give them this. She wants you to be unapologetically you. Wow. She cannot help who you're trying to pretend to be. She wants you to be you, and as you were wired to experience this existence in a particular way, good, bad, and indifferent, and the joy of being this authentically true self of you is the money shot. It's not where you're going. It's being this thing. It's not what's in the box. It's the box itself. You are the box, as is everything around you, and you have to be you. You have to be you. And some people will say, well, what if me is a terrible thing, and da-da-da-da-da. It's not. It's not how you were made. I don't mean you in your darkest, deepest moment after you've been through. I mean the true you of you. The you you're afraid of exposing to someone because you would never want to be that authentic. That's where the joy is, and that's where the truth is, and that's where the merger is, and that's where the success is, and that's where the joy is. Right in that thing. The very thing you're trying not to do. No, Gerry, I'm really, really trying to do that. I got news for you. About 99.5% of you aren't. You're not trying to do that. You're trying to be something other than that, in fear of this. And that's kind of human. And that's what, I gotta tell you something. The big reveal, the plant medicine. Why is plant medicine this big? Because she gets you drunk on love of you. And then you reveal who you are. And all of a sudden you're in love with it. Oh my God, am I that much beauty? Am I that much good? Am I so included in this whole? Yeah, you are. The very thing you're running from. Yeah. So what is my talk about this week? It's about the truth. Everything keeps coming back to the truth. And I want you to be in truth. And I want you to have, you know, the other good part about being in truth is you can't be bullshitted. You can't be bullshitted by a micro-fact. What's a micro-fact? Somebody didn't pay taxes 1 year. Terrible. Doesn't give you the whole thing. And that's somebody I'm not a fan of anyway. But it's taking 83 people died in a car accident today. Don't drive cars. They're micro-facts. So when you commit to the truth, not only do you want to know those micro-facts, you want to know the culmination of those facts. What do they mean as a whole? And if you're aware of that, nobody can lie to you. They can try to mislead you, but you just won't buy it because you know more. The same thing is true about yourself. You know, when I was a young boy, I was in a Catholic thing. If you touched your penis, you were terrible. you were going to hell. Well, if that was truth, there wouldn't have been anybody. There would have been anybody in the school, anybody teaching it, and everybody be in hell. So people use these micro things to control you. You have to be smarter than that. You have to be more aware than that. And please do not confuse woke and awake. They're two completely different things. Woke is like a doctrine. I'm going to believe in this, and this, and this, and I'm going to buy the whole thing. Awake is aware. Aware is I am cognizant of the truth. That's where you want to be. When is Rhythmia opening? Okay, here's the good one. When is Rhythmia opening? It is opening for people that already have appointments in November. It's opening for people who already had previous vacation scheduled or workshop scheduled for December. We're taking new reservations for January right now, and I'm going to tell you something. This is my prediction to you. Please remember this. After this pandemic, after this election, more people are going to want to know the truth of themselves because they're no longer trusting government to make decisions. They're no longer trusting healthcare to take care of them. They're no longer in that. What they are in, what they want to be in, is truth. And I'm going to tell you, this place will be booked out 6 months to a year ahead of time. So I want you to come here because I believe this. Who do I believe is going to save the planet? I believe you are. And I you know how I know that? Because you're going to be living your truth. And once you're living your truth, you can't be misled to hate people unfairly, to jigger the game in your own favor, to get over on someone. You can't do it because you're in truth and you know that they're a part of you. That's what I'm betting on. And I want you to come here to Rhythmia. I want you to experience this. I want to be a part of you, and I want to hug you when I see you. I want you to come. So please come. Please make your reservations now. Please call up and do something. Please do this because, you know what? If anything, in the beginning of this virus, when people thought 10% of us were going to die, in that moment, you should have had a talk with yourself and you said, fuck, I'm done with fucking this. I want something more real. I want a life that's more real. I want joy that's more real. I want to feel the juice of living in a more real way. I don't want to sit in a cubicle for the rest of my life. I don't want to fucking join a party that I believe a complete doctrine. I want the truth. I want real. And if you want that, please come here because we give that. And I got to tell you something. Don't fucking trust someone who's telling you they know this shit. What plant medicine does, what ayahuasca does, it removes the middleman. There's no fucking priest. There's no fucking preacher. There's no motivator. There's just you, and it is all there is. So I don't trust, I swear to you, when someone's talking about spirituality and they put themselves as the go-between between the creator and the person, I am fucking out. Because it's bullshit. Because each one of you can get to her, can get to it, and nobody can stop it. You're one trip away from speaking to the eternal forever. I want you to come to Rhythmia, and I want you to speak to her. Please come. Please book. Until next week, God bless you. God keep you. God love you. Happy Thanksgiving to all you Canadians. And that was yesterday. And have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you next week. Cheers.